Greetings from Washington, D.C. We at the Global Peace Foundation join with our co-convener, Cooperation Ireland, to welcome you to the Peacesharing Forum 2021. Thanks very much for joining us for what we are sure will be very worthwhile discussions on the theme Forging a New Frontier in Peace Building and Education. The sessions today and tomorrow are focused on opportunities, strategies, and for education and peace building as we move toward a post-pandemic world. Each session features the insights of diverse and highly qualified international experts, policymakers, and practitioners. Special thanks to all of the panelists and contributors for adding their time and expertise to this important forum. To begin with, I think it is helpful to remind ourselves of key terms related to peace processes, since our forum title references peace sharing and our theme includes peace building. Because any peace process can be highly complex and drawn out, the distinct components required are often described as peacekeeping, peacemaking, and peace building. Peacekeeping involves steps to enforce ceasefires and prevent resumption of conflict, such as done by UN peacekeeping forces. Peacemaking involves stopping an ongoing conflict, usually through negotiating terms of settlement with opposing sides. A key example is the major diplomatic effort that negotiated the Good Friday Agreement to end the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Peace building refers to efforts on all levels of society to improve human security, address root causes of conflicts, and strengthen resilience and cohesion within communities and society at large. Peace building thus includes a wide range of endeavors to reduce conflict, sometimes called negative peace, as well as to build just and equitable societies, referred to as positive peace. Though serious conflicts have unique histories, causes, and drivers, still we find significant similarities in the underlying dynamics involved. Much can be gained by sharing lessons learned and best practices among practitioners working on peace processes. For bringing focus to this important aspect of peace work, I would like to acknowledge and appreciate our Sheridan and the Cooperation Ireland team who promote what they have called peace sharing as a fourth essential component for effective peace processes. So that is the context for this Peacesharing Forum 2021. Peace work is critically important, but also highly challenging. It requires continuous and consistent investment, especially in peace-building efforts to build trust, strengthen relationships, and solve underlying issues. Thus, peace sharing like this is quite valuable as we learn from each other. Hopefully we can become more effective in our peacekeeping, peacemaking, and peace-building endeavors. I also consider it noteworthy that our theme links education and peace building. Some may think these are unrelated disciplines, but when we recognize the broad scope of peace building, along with the central role of education in raising future responsible citizens, we can see clearly how the two are interrelated in important aspects. Utilizing in intentional ways that interconnection and the natural opportunities for synergy as being discussed in this forum with special focus on youth, we can open the way for innovative strategies and very positive outcomes. We appreciate each of you participating from around the world and hope you find the discussions informative and meaningful, as well as beneficial to your work. Thank you for your vital contributions to the youth, families, and communities that you serve. Through actively peace sharing, we can continue to learn from each other, become more effective, and collectively add more to the greater good. Thank you very much.
Morning, Tony, and thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to join so many of you from different parts of the world for this Peace Sharing Forum. My only regret is that we can't all join personally here in Belfast, And despite all the benefits of modern technology and connecting us all, I don't think it's a substitute for actually meeting in person, although the upside is we have many more people able to attend as participants online. But I've also discovered during the last year that whilst you can maintain existing relationships, it's very difficult to build and grow new relationships, which is particularly important in peace work. Can I also pay tribute to Jim Flynn, International President of the Global Peace Foundation, and his colleagues for their energy in making this event happen in such unusual times. Despite COVID, I believe it's vitally important that all our efforts in peace work continue. We cannot afford to put this work on hold. I want to cover 3 areas in the next 10 minutes. Firstly, given the worldwide spread of participants to this forum, I want to give you a brief overview of the conflict in Northern Ireland. Secondly, to chart the differing stages of our peace process, and it is a process that has taken 35 to 40 years. It has stagnated at times in that period, and we're going through a period of stagnation now. We still suffer from tit-for-tat politics, and many take the peace process for granted. Thirdly, I want to say something about the need to be constantly vigilant in a peace process. The last few years have shown how even a successful peace process can be derailed. And so therefore, I want to say something about why the building of relationships and trust is of vital importance, and how strong relationships and trust can come to the rescue when periods of turbulence occur. Given the current issues around COVID, trust and relationships are the vaccine in peace work. So a brief overview of the conflict in Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland conflict, also called the Troubles, was a violent sectarian conflict from about 1969 to 1998 between the overwhelmingly Protestant Unionist loyalist community who desired the province to remain part of the United Kingdom, and the overwhelmingly Roman Catholic nationalist Republican community who wanted Northern Ireland to become part of the Republic of Ireland and therefore one island. It's important to say that the divide between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland had little to do with theological and religious differences, but instead was grounded in culture and politics. The prolonged and bloody conflict claimed the lives of some 3,700 people, injured many thousands more, and left a deep psychological scar on a society still trying to deal with the inherited intergenerational traumas of the period. Despite the unquestioned benefits of the Good Friday Belfast Agreement, Northern Ireland remains a divided society with simmering tensions that have seen instances of ongoing violence. These tensions are exacerbated within Northern Ireland in a post-Brexit scenario underpinned by constitutional uncertainty and changing demographics. But to give you a sense of the scale of the conflict and the impact on the people, if a similar conflict had happened in the United States, over 600,000 people would have lost their lives, with 8 million people injured. So you can imagine the deep psychological impact that would have left right across the community. In Northern Ireland, every family, every street, every village, every town, and every city was affected. But as conflict broke out and developed, there were many people who refused to accept conditions as they existed, but rather committed themselves to take responsibility for changing them and not accepting the inevitability of conflict. So I want to briefly plot out the journey of those peace builders. In doing so, I'm very conscious that you cannot map on every conflict resolution process on every other conflict around the world and assume it will work. But I do believe there is valuable learning, and there are principles that can be mapped across conflicts, and these include the importance of dialogue, the importance of relationship building, and the importance of trust building. I have set out the Northern Ireland peace process in 4 different phases, and I believe these phases can be used as a scaffolding or the framework that other conflicts areas can use. I will briefly explain them within the context of the Northern Ireland conflict, but you might consider your own area of conflict by using the framework, but populating it with its own specific characteristics from your own conflict. So the 4 phases of the peace process in Northern Ireland are the peacekeeping phase, the peacemaking phase, the peacebuilding phase, and what we're doing today, which is the peace sharing phase. So the peacekeeping phase was when the conflict broke out. There were a lot of people in communities, individuals right across society who tried to stop the violence happening. And that was at the beginning of the conflict. It's not United Nations peacekeeping, but peacekeeping efforts by local people. Unfortunately, to our tragedy, that wasn't successful. And the next 35 years was the conflict. I talk about that 35 years as the peacemaking phase, because there were continued efforts to stop the violence, to make politics work. And there were times when in that period, we had agreements that sustained for a short period of time, collapsed, created a vacuum, violence resumed, and that continued over the 35 years. So in the early 1970s, we had a power sharing agreement that collapsed after a short period of time, creating a vacuum and further violence. In the 80s, the mid-80s, we had the Downing Street Declaration, again, up and running for a short period of time, but collapsed and into another period of violence before we eventually had the Belfast Good Friday Agreement in the early 90s, when for the first time we were able to shake hands on this island and between Britain and Ireland. And that was the beginning of the peace building phase. So we are now in what I call the peace building phase. So how do you rebuild communities post-conflicts? How do we remove the walls of division? How do we address the issues of relationship between people, the residential and educational sectarian segregation that we have? How do you improve jobs and the economy for people? How do you stop racism? How do we deal with the past? There's an enduring mistrust. How do we deal with sectarianism? And how do we continue to build the institutions? And that is the phase we're in now, and it may well take 30 to 40 years. The final phase then is that peace sharing phase, which is what we're doing today. What is it we learned in our conflict? What is it we did well or didn't do well that we can share with other conflict areas around the world? For example, what did the state do well, or what did it not do well? What did the media do or not do well? And what was the role of the church during the conflict, or the role of women? So examining all those things is part of the importance of peace building. But that process has taken place over the last 35 to 40 years. And even though it is seen around the world as a successful peace process, there have been periods when progress went backwards, and we're going through a period of considerable challenge currently as a result of the United Kingdom's decision to leave the European Union. Issues of sovereignty, of identity, and of borders have again deepened polarization. And that served to remind us of the need to remain vigilant and to take care of your peace process. Too often we take for granted the hard-won gains, and this happens particularly in politics when key actors move off the stage and are replaced by people who don't have the same ownership of the process because they hadn't the same investment in it. When moments of tension occur, such as we experience currently, it does test whether relationships that were built during the process are strong and whether sufficient trust has been built. Trust is the glue that holds relationships, societies, and economies together. Violent conflict results in the breakdown of trust, and that is why rebuilding it is a core element of any approach. But by working with all sectors and levels of society to develop a common vision for the future, we contribute to increased mutual understanding and the rebuilding of trust. So in closing, I want to encourage you in your work. You will be in it for the long term, but it's also rewarding work. And we can do nothing better for our fellow citizens than committing ourselves to improve their lives. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the forum.